Check out the best and fastest way that we found to silver STL. Now the majority of this video is going to be fast forwarded because I don't feel like most people who are looking to silver this dungeon or need a guide for silvering the dungeon are too worried about the garbage phase or the trash phase of this whole entire dungeon. But either way, it's good to know that this is going to be from a healer's point of view, obviously, because I'm healing on my medic, and that you're going to need to set up a stun rotation. Earlier on, it doesn't really matter, but you're going to want at least 2 people with at least 1 person on standby. And for those of you who don't know what a stun rotation is, you probably need to get out of the dungeon for starters, and just so you know, you need people who stun things. Most warriors carry 3 at this point, then you'll have a bunch of different people who can carry 1, 2, and 3. But either way, you're going to want to set this up nice and early, that way when you get to the first boss you can cruise right through. And I also won't be commentating through this entire thing because some of it's self-explanatory, but in order for you to get gold on this, you have to do it in the time allotted, don't die, and finish the challenges, which is basically don't get hit by most of the telegraphs in the game. You can get hit by a couple of them, but it's pretty tough to do. The first challenge on this one is in the second phase. You have to drop the circle on top of the guys on the outer rim there, but regardless of that, I don't think we get it in this. You just set up your stun rotation when he does his first move where he puts the giant X on the ground, you stun that, and then you go to work on him. After he kicks your weapons away, he's going to go into his next phase in which he's going to drop lightning on one particular character. That circle is going to be dropped on top of these guys right here. Run off that circle. It allows you to damage them. The best way to do this in the most efficient way is to get 2 on them, 2 of those lightning circles, and the third one you're going to want to drag over to the next guy. So this will actually keep you in the fastest situation where you can obviously save the most time possible. It's not the easiest thing to do in the entire world. You can see that those things on the outside that are going around the rim are actually able to stun you, so the best way to go about things is to stay on the inside of the fight and try and get those circles over there. I flounder a few times, but it's because I'm trying to concentrate on keeping the team alive. This phase lasts a little bit as you have to get through 4 of them, but like I said, it's pretty self-explanatory. This is one of those fights where once you do it, you know how to do it for the rest of the time you're playing. Now, some people like to dodge the first set of these based on the fact that it knocks your weapon away, but if you can get your weapon away or get your weapon back really quickly and your stun rotation's solid, you can get in there and get all the stuns on them again. This is going to obviously increase the damage you're doing to the guy because of the mood that you get on him, the moment of opportunity, and you're going to be doing extra damage, so it's going to go considerably faster. Unless you have a team that you absolutely trust and you're on comm with all of them, it's always a good idea to back away real quick if you don't know for a fact it's going to get stunned. But as you can see, that guy's pretty straightforward. He goes down without too much of a problem. And we do have a fairly decent team here as far as DPS goes, so things are going to drop a little faster in the video than they would necessarily in just a group that you find online, unless you get very lucky. But either way, you need to do all the optionals as well, so that means you're going to be picking up the totems and killing off the Pell, throwing the Pell grenades depending on which options you get. We're also going to be opening up those little prisons right there. In this particular case, we do get the optional boss, so you're going to have to kill him as well. We opt to do this after we clear the downstairs garbage. So from a healing standpoint, you're also going to want to carry some sort of antidote. It is for medics, some sort of cleanse, so you can get debuffs off people. There are some very strong debuffs, especially in the optional fight that you'll see here in a few minutes. And I know I've never healed with an Esper, but with a medic, it helps a lot if your team understands that they need to stack up in that situation so you can debuff all of them at the same time. Nothing worse than watching somebody die and them not understanding that they had a debuff on and were dodging the shit out of your cleanse. So That's something to keep in mind when you're doing it. We clear this guy as well because we needed the extra Pell quest, but grab this and decide to go up. I think we jump up the wrong one. Yeah, we jump up the wrong one first, but not a big deal. Go over here, and this boss is a little different compared to most bosses. He's just a really strong DPS race. So what's going to happen with this guy is he's going to be real simple. He's going to cast something called Gust Convergence. You're going to stun that off, and then you're going to be able to move him a couple times. But then he's going to do another move in which he gains a shield and starts doing some crazy DPS around the map and dropping a ton of telegraphs. It's kind of hard to heal through, but if you got a decent healer, you can get through it fairly simple. But the DPS needs to burst through this shield, and then they can stun him, and that is literally the fight. Here you can see the telegraphs. They go around like mad. There's no really set path to them or anything. You just heal bomb through it. As soon as you get through his absorb shield, you knock him down, get that moo, and he should drop. He may get one more Gust Convergence off, but like I said, with a good team and a good stun rotation, you'll get through that no problem, and you'll end up only having to deal with that once or twice at the most. The optional boss down, it's just a run to the next room and the Mario section, as we like to call it, because there's a lot of jumping after this particular fight. So this fight, the way to beat the challenge is to not get hit by any of the tornadoes, which is easier said than done in certain circumstances. In the third phase of this fight, he actually lets the tornadoes move around the room. But the main trick to this is avoid the big AoE he puts on the ground. Obviously, the red is bad. And when he puts the circle on you in his, I guess you call it Gust Convergence phase, you need to run that circle over to the far side walls. That's why we're fighting him so close to the wall right here, because that's going to actually stay on the ground the entirety of the fight, and that makes it just a little more difficult to get to. So you'll be able to see that in a second. He has that red thing on him. He tries to run it over there. Doesn't do the best job ever, but we actually have a little bit of a trick here that works out really nice. But like you can see, you run those out of the way, that way they're not in the middle of the map for when you have to do the running phase. But there's a nice little thing to show you here. And also, you can notice that we're fighting this with 4 people because one of our members didn't make it in. So we actually do down this guy with 4 people, which is kind of funny. It was our engineer DPS who didn't quite make it in. So the team does a really good job of picking up the slack. I actually go down at one point because of terrible dodge. But here's a big trick. If you guys can make it over to this area right here, you jump behind that wall right there. When the guy does the move where he kicks you back to the beginning, it just throws you right there. So if you jump into that little cubby, it's a little tough to get out sometimes, but that will actually make it so you don't have to run through the entire gauntlet right there, and you can just get back to stun him right away, because you do have to stun him, otherwise he'll do a very large AoE and your group will wipe. That's one of the mandatory parts of this. I apologize for the amount of time it takes to down this guy. Once again, we are out in DPS, which is kind of important. It is a 5-man dungeon. It's not meant for 4, but our friend Lav gets to watch it from the outside as we beat it. You should not get loot if you don't come into the fight. All very straightforward in the second or third phase, depending on which you want to call it. He just does the same things he's been doing, and then pops out those guys again, and you have to run the red over to the wall for the second time. There's not too many opportunities where you'll get through this fight without having to do the run phase twice, so I'm not sure if we hide behind the wall at this point or if we actually have to do the running phase, but you're going to have to do that twice, and it makes hitting or not hitting the tornadoes kind of difficult. It's not the hardest thing in the world, but there's usually always somebody who messes up and ends up in a tornado. And here's a better view of what it looks like if you can get behind the wall. And instead of kicking you all the way back to the beginning so you have to run over there, you can just get a straight shot and, oh, I'm the guy who messed up. Oh, nope, me and Swolger messed it up at the same time, and then I go to keep messing it up because that's what you do when you mess up. And unfortunately, when you get popped up and that AoE is underneath you, there's nothing you can do, but these guys do an excellent job of cleaning up the fight. And that gets the second boss down. Second main boss, third I guess if you count the optional, but at this time Wildstar kind of updated the loot system and they killed it. No epics. You're going to want to clear this pack on the left right here, and optionally you clear the pat that's coming through. But if he's out of the way, just do as much as you have to do to get your optionals done. If you have to throw a few more grenades or kill a couple more Pell or whatever you need to do, get those done, and once those are done, you can do the Mario phase. There's actually several different ways to get back to Stormtalon if you wipe. There's a trick to jumping up on a platform and doing a whole bunch of other little running and jumping stuff, but if you have plenty of time and you don't wipe, you don't have to really worry about that. So we just follow this path right here, and I highly recommend this path to everybody. This will save you a ton of time because you don't have to clear things unless you're hell-bent on clearing this entire pathway. This is a nice easy way to get around things. It doesn't take it too much skill. Unfortunately, I'm terrible at jumping, I guess, so I don't do too hot a job with that, but so shank the hell out of that right there. That was god-awful, but either way, we get there all in one piece, and it's time for the Stormtalon fight. We sat and talked for a little bit, so I just skipped a little scene right there, and there comes the poop dragon. This fight also has a mandatory stun in it, but you're going to want to stay out of the front of Stormtalon because he does a very, very mean cleave. You have a breakthrough if you want to right there. You get out of that break and you rush to him. Keep your team alive if you're a healer, obviously. But he's going to do a move called Static Charge. It's not stunnable. You have to hot feet your way out of this situation. Going to obviously be putting little red dots underneath you that build up static charges. You can cleanse certain things in this, but it does do damage over time. This is a DPS race, so if you don't beat him in a timely manner, he gets stronger and stronger, and then becomes impossible to take hits from. So that's just going to be the rinse and repeat for the first part. He's going to put this underneath you, stun you, kick you away, and then there comes the third part. He's going to put that underneath one person. That's why a lot of people save their CC break, because if you use your CC break for this, it will make it so your keys aren't confused, because it's kind of hard to pick a direction and go around him when your keys are all backwards. But you try and stay in that circle as best you can, and you try and get as close to him and make a circle around him. That way you can still do DPS while getting away from there. A little quick heal here so we don't wipe, and stay out of the red, and that is the entirety of the fight. All he's going to do is kick you away at one point, in which you have to get back to him as fast as you can and stun him out of one of his moves, but mostly it's just this part right here. This is where most of the teams wipe, because as you can see, there's another dot inside the dot that's doing what is the challenge, which is don't get hit by any of the lightning coming from the sky. So you can pull that off, you're a better man than I am, but either way, that's how you get silver.